the Church of Scientology is so afraid of.
This is SPTV.
Hello, guys.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you doing, Liz?
I'm actually doing, it's a Monday. Work was a little slow. So I'm doing pretty good.
That's great. Well, I'm doing fine myself, you guys. And as you can see from the thumbnail, we wanted to take this live to, first of all, honor all the real heroes of 9/11 that did literally unthinkable work that day. Liz and I were just talking about how, I was stuck in the hotels when 9/11 took place. I remember exactly where I was when we found out. And Liz was literally in New York.
Yeah, I was at a friend's apartment and she started screaming. And I thought, what the hell is going on? Like, it's when you have that one eye open and you're just like, it is too early for whatever you're doing. Like I'm too hungover. And so I'm sitting there and all of a sudden she opens the blinds and she has one of those Manhattan apartments that like you swing open the blinds and you see the whole New York skyline. And so then all of a sudden she's like, the plane just crashed. And I don't understand what she's talking about. And then maybe a few seconds later, you see the other one. And I'm like, this is a dream. Like, tell me this is a movie scene. And I'm just not involved in the loop. Like, is this a movie? And then you see everything. And yeah, it wasn't a fun day. It was a really shitty day.
Yeah. Well,
but I guess the people that were in the building and their families, they had a much worse day. For me, it was, I thought they were attacking all of us.
Yeah, it was definitely a bad day for humanity, you guys. Definitely for everyone involved. And for me, Liz, it included being that I was still in the Sea Org when this took place, when 9/11 took place. David Miscavige wrote a policy called a wake-up call. And they utilized the tragedy of 9/11 to go around fundraising, getting more money for themselves. They went around making all of us that were slaves at the hotel. We were told that we were not doing our jobs. We were told that, because we weren't getting our statistics up and we were not making enough money, that the planet was going to hell. And it was our fault for not pulling our weight. So as a result of 9/11, we got punished inside the hotels and told that we really needed to, take responsibility for the planet being attacked by terrorists. That was the thing.
That was what you guys got told.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
Yeah. So I wanted to read you guys here our intro for today because we had some questions that we wanted to do. And definitely feel free to jot down any questions you may have for us on the comments. And we are going to be answering questions today and continue to advocate. So while David Miscavige penned the so-called Inspector General Network Bulletin, a wake-up call in the aftermath of 9/11, we ask, why doesn't the corporate media and the U.S. government officials give an F about the terrifying abuse inflicted on kids inside the Scientology hotels? In this episode, we're going to delve into disturbing paradox. Why, despite being a nation that purports to be all about pitching how they are so resolutely all about no one is above the law, they seem to utterly overlook the plight of children trapped within the walls of Scientology hotels. Innocent souls that endure unimaginable abuse subjected to dehumanizing techniques that defy all sense of morality and decency. Our aim is to raise awareness and pose critical questions that demand answers not only from the perpetrators, but from society at large. And I wanted us to think about these questions, and we don't have to answer them one by one, but just sort of like to think about them. But how can a nation so vigilant in the face of external threats fail to protect its own children from internal homegrown terrorism? What allows Scientology to continue to operate with apparent impunity, evading the very laws meant to safeguard our youth? What is the extent of the psychological and emotional trauma suffered by these young victims, and what can be done to heal them? Why does the facade of religious freedom continue to be used as a shield over such egregious institutional systemic abuses perpetrated on minors at scale? And are there systemic failures within our legal and regulatory frameworks that enable organizations like Scientology to child traffic kids and thrive? So,
Some good questions.
Some good questions, right? What are your thoughts immediately when you hear that?
So I have so many friends that are conspiracy theorists, and especially being there, I had friends that were doing the whole, just like in Japan, they get noticed and they just didn't do anything. And I'm like, it's a little different. What happened at Pearl Harbor is a lot different than this particular situation. But here's the things that have since come out. You turn around and you have, operatives that are working here that they're trying, the US government is trying to infiltrate so that way they can prevent this from happening again. How about you prevent them from actually starting to begin with? Or if you know that they're, a terrorist group or a form of terrorist group, how about you just exit them? Like, just slowly exit them peacefully and calmly and not disgustingly. If they're absolutely guaranteed to do something like this, or this is in their plans and it, exit them. I don't understand how how that can be so complicated.
Yeah. I mean, I was seeing some of the feedback that we got on the questions as we read them here, and they're saying that those are some awesome questions, tough ones for sure, and I don't have an answer to any of them. Well, you guys, neither do we have the answers, really. We're just
Speculating.
ourselves. How can a nation so vigilant in the face of external threats fail to protect its own children from the internal horrors that are taking place within its country? And I think this really goes to the systemic failure, the very systemic failure of every last shred of agency in the government that is tapped to protect the country.
Mm-hmm.
And, I just think that if law enforcement cannot protect the kids and cannot do anything about stopping what's going on to children, then what is everything else good for anyways? Literally.
Right.
Like literally, if children are not protected, I mean, never mind that the schools in America have become a ground for unthinkable horrors, but, and again, it's like everyone's just expected to just take it and continue,
And smile.
and smile and enjoy your freedom in this country. But, you know, the problem with that is like, we get that not everything can be perfect. And we're not literally asking for perfection. We're literally asking for a shred of help.
Or some culpability. Like realistically, if you know that this is going on, like there's been so many people that have reported the abuse that happens in Scientology. You know it's going on. It's not someone saying it quietly. We're screaming it from the hilltops. Hey, this is what I went through. Hey, this is what I had to do. This is what sorry, as my hands shake. This is what, was put on me. And yet you're still letting them run, because it's not just one story. It's hundreds of stories where people are coming out and saying, yeah, this happened to me. This happened to me. Yet they are not stepping up and saying enough. So where is their culpability? Because they know and they're not stopping it.
Absolutely. They really do know, you guys. And I don't know if any of you catched the live that Aaron was doing earlier about Scientology being in full-blown panic mode, and that was completely to be expected. Scientology is a crisis machine operation. Scientology operates as a pseudo paramilitary intelligence, blackmailing intelligence operation that monetizes and literally circumvents all legal proceedings. Although Scientology is run by a ton of lawyers who no one knows who in the hell they are, other than they're very prominent and they are the best of the best, charging up a storm to really have a client from hell in their hands, in their literal hands. But again, you guys, like, attorney-client relationships, when attorneys actually institute that relationship, it comes with a heavy burden of due diligence on the attorney's end to be able to actually acquire the client. And so far, everyone's going around pretending that, what in the big literal hell is the problem that, these attorneys are so the best of the best and don't even have a shred of a clue what the very specifically purposeful, horrific, criminal-inducing rhetoric of the clown L. Ron Hubbard, of that degenerate that was a convicted felon, actually institute. Because no attorney can defend what's in those memos.
Yeah. Nor can they truly defend what we have all experienced. They can't make it make sense. They can't make it legal. They can't do a little dance and suddenly it's all better. No, they just like to spit their legal mumbo jumbo and pretend that they're the smartest person in the room.
And it's mumbo jumbo is the right word, Liz, because I just did a video reacting, to what took place with all these letters that we now have on the public record. So the receipts keep coming, you guys. That's really the name of the game here. The receipts keep coming. These people keep telling on themselves. Never mind that still the corporate media is all about sensationalism and superficiality, because the coverage of Giovanni Ravisi, who has a way more skin in the game than Ashton and Mila. Literally, Giovanni, worth $40 million, has so much more skin in the game in terms of him personally funding the child trafficking hotels himself. I mean, you know him personally, right, Liz?
Yeah, I did meet him quite a bit, spent some time. I really know his sister.
Gina.
Gina and I got, or at least I believed we were really close until she graduated the EPF. And then they basically locked her in a room And I mean like a small room, and called it her office. And you watched that light that she had, where it was like she was just the funniest girl in the room. She was the nicest person you'd ever met. You watched this light just flicker off, and all she did was cry. Like her light was just dimming and dimming and dimming, and
But
it's
what was
like her
her
soul
deal?
was leaving.
What was her deal?
They locked her in an office.
But
Like
why?
they basic
What was her post?
I have no idea, because originally she was supposed to go to the president's office. And then I got told she's not going to the president's office, but she's going to kind of work with them. But she's going to be in this office near, I think it was near the Purif. And so I'm like, okay, that's a little weird. Like, why is she down by HCO if she's going to be part of the Purif? And knocked on her door to see how she was doing. And she was just bawling. And I had never seen someone that defeated in my life at that moment.
But you never knew what she was crying
No, she wouldn't
about.
tell me. She wouldn't tell me. She's like, "You'll report me," and I was like, "I'm not going to report you. I'm not going to say a word." And I didn't say a word till
But
just
most
now.
likely she wanted to leave, right? Maybe.
Probably.
That was one of the things, you guys. Like, if you said after signing the bill in your contract that never mind, I changed my mind, that was not gonna be a good thing for you to do. So
No.
again, the trafficking of humans is real AF. At this time, how old was Gina when she joined?
I want to say she was 17 or 18, like maybe 17. Like she was young. She only had like 2 or 3 things under her belt, but nothing on IMDb, or like she didn't have lots of pictures on there. But she was still the nicest person like you could ever ask for.
Well, and the thing, Liz, is that because you ended up leaving and she ended up staying in the Sea Org, right?
I don't know. Like, I don't know what happened to a lot of the people, even though I
Well,
thought
'cause
we were all going to
Gina
remain friends.
okay, well, I'll tell you what I know. I met Gina after she left the Sea Org, after we had both left. I had left the Sea Org too. But this was like in 2005, 2006, 2007, maybe.
Okay.
Well, and even later, actually, because I think she came to my art show in 2013. But Giovanni Ravisi's sister, you guys, was in the Sea Org for years. And I also spoke about her because she was extremely traumatized when she left the Sea Org. What you said, Liz, super sweet girl, super nice, but you could tell that she was like
She'd been
literally
broken.
not well internally. She was just always like literally like a scaredy cat. And you could tell there was a lot of like trauma there and a lot of secrets, you guys, because again, all the abuse that took place when we were being child trafficked, we were told never to speak about it. We were told never to contextualize it for anybody. We were told that the contracts that we signed were so binding and everything that we were doing was so confidential that God forbid we ever said a thing. And I mean,
Yep.
I took that contract pretty serious, Liz. Like, I don't know about you, but it's literally for what, almost like a decade and a half. I pretended like I was never in the Sea Org, you guys. Anyone on the outside that would meet me, I had a shore story, the famous shore stories about, oh yeah, I went to school in Florida. That's about as much as I would really get into.
Yeah,
And
I
then I would
would.
just go into, oh, I hated Florida. I went to school in Florida, but I hated there.
Yeah,
So,
you do the narrow. Like I lived in LA. Yeah, it was West Hollywood area. And then if people ask me about scars, because I mean my body was covered in them, I'd just be like, I fell a lot as a kid. I fell downstairs of our 1-story house. And just little things that I would say just to out it. But no. Topic of Scientology was not in it for me.
and you guys, I mean, again, it's like you're so embarrassed, you're so ashamed and humiliated. It wasn't a good experience for anybody. So the go-to for most survivors that I've seen is literally just, okay, pretend it didn't happen, pretend we weren't in the Sea Org, come up with your cockamamie story and sell that cockamamie story to everyone you meet. And I still have several kids that I knew from there that won't reveal the real identity. They have a full new network of people that they work with. You know, a lot of them socially climb themselves into specific places and things like that. And definitely don't want anyone to know that they were associated with these people, you know. But there is something that a commenter said today, actually. And she said, tell all of our abusers that their privacy is no longer theirs and the story is ours. So, you know, there's been a whole like song and dance about like, oh, can you out people? Can you say if they were there? Can you say this? Can you say that? Well, literally, you guys, yes. Out
Yeah.
whoever in the hell you need to. Because, you know, and shout out to any under the radar that are watching, stop being scared, stop being afraid, stop enabling the dysfunction that you are enabling by not taking a stance. You're not helping anyone by being wishy-washy AF. That does not help anybody. So, yeah, you know, if you want to take your L. Ron Hubbard advice, either go back and be all about it or come out and get yourself some real therapy, get yourself some real community, get yourself a real identity, find out what that is. I mean, the process on when you have to come out is up to you. No one's saying like, go on YouTube and yap. That's very personal and everyone can do it whenever in the hell they want to. And if they want to, if that's for them, if they feel that they can advocate, you know, but I would say that we need people to really, this is a wake-up call. On September 11th, the terrorism that America experienced, and with the same side of their mouth, the terrorism that America home cooked for itself, terrorism that was inflicted on these kids by these deranged executives that ran around with visions of grandeur, all thanks to indicted convicted felon L. Ron Hubbard, as they ran around terrorizing kids inside hotels for their own pleasure, you guys, for their own amusement, for their own pleasure. These executives ran unhinged. Literally, no one could stop them. No one could see how they are abusing the kids that are in there. And quite frankly, there's not enough of them wanting to, you know, come up with real withholds to the table and really actually air out those. There's still a lot of laundering of narratives going on to pretend that, you know, it was this one, but it was never me. And it was that one, but it was never me. Full grown adults that got involved in this disgusting scheme as adults. And, you know, part of what we're doing here and part of answering this very first question that we were just going over, actually, when you really think about it, was how can a nation so vigilant in the face of external threats fail to protect its own children from internal horrors? Well, you know, part of the reason is because there's been a bunch of complete lying, dishonest, pathetic people that have taken it upon themselves to climb up that pyramid scheme that these hotels represent. You know, Giovanni Ribisi, the interview that we talked about today, where he's so wishy-washy and he's just saying like, oh yeah, I have the right, it really works for me. And I'm like, the lack of self-awareness of this man, I'm sure it works for you, Giovanni. No one's saying it's not working for you. You got $40 million in the bank. I'm sure you think you're such a great success story. I'm sure it's working great. But you
Yeah.
know what? Your literal sister that both Liz and I know, it didn't work that great for her.
You know.
For Gina, it didn't work. For anyone that was enslaved in that celebrity center hotel manor, it didn't work. What was that?
All I can think of is, you know, she loved her brother and sister. Like, she had one of those relationships and she would talk about it. She'd be like, we have one of those relationships that they're like my best friends. And if she's no longer in the Sea Org and she's hanging out at an art show by your beautiful self, that means that she's no longer in her family's life. And all I can think of is how gut-wrenching that this is. One more person got yanked from this family. And I'm not talking about the Scientology side of them. I'm talking about the fact that they were a loving family per Gina.
Well, but I want to dig under the surface of that false narrative.
Okay.
Is that me or is that you?
I have no idea what that sound is. I have nothing on me.
Hold on one second. I think I need to.
Not really sure what the sound is, but hopefully we'll be able to get that fixed. I'm curious about the narrative because I know that that's the stories that I saw.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah. Well, there was some YouTube thing that just started happening.
It does happen.
Well, but I was going to say about scratching under the surface of that, because that's pretty much the narrative of the Masterson family too. Everyone's like, oh, but they're such a close-knit family and they love each other so much and this and this and that. But you know what, guys? It's like the very real toxic dynamics in a Scientology family cannot be understated. And it has been so understated always, starting from the very top. The fish stinks at the top and it contaminates all of itself. And as much as, Carol and Alana and Jordan, they're all like, oh, we're such a loving, close-knit family. They're all trauma bonded, you guys. They all will fully in on enabling, aiding and abetting unthinkable stuff. So as much as everybody says, yes, we're so close-knit, that is true. I mean, I saw the Mastersons. They were always helping each other. They were always helping their close circle of friends. Everybody was vetted. You had to be cool enough to be part of their clique in order to be tapped to get, opportunities and invited to certain parties and da-da-da-da-da. So Gina's family, the Ravisis, were just like that. I mean, and especially like, her sister being married to Beck and all of this. Again, you guys, like these celebrities think that they are fake AF royalty.
Yeah.
That's
absolutely
what it becomes. Like, oh, we are the Ravisis. We are the Presleys. We are the Mastersons. We are the Travoltas. We are the Cruises. And Scientology sets up slaves to cater to each one of those families. So as much as Gina thinks that her brother has her back and he's some great person, Gina, we would have to push back on that very fake narrative, given that Giovanni is funding the hotels where you were trafficked, where I was trafficked, where Liz was trafficked. Giovanni was not trafficked, you guys. He's always been treated as he's so special. Roll out the red carpet wherever he walks in the hotel. People are running around, falling over themselves. Oh, do you want a drink? Do you want this? Do you want that? Can we give you this? Can we give you that? And again, it's like, the special treatment is what they were in love with. The sense of belonging to something special is what they were in love with. But at the end of the day, it's like their families are literally covered in blood of all the children, including Gina's mom, Gail Bravisi, momager of the year, another one of these momagers, very a la Carol Masterson. Oh yeah, we really want to help our kids. They were helping themselves, you guys. Let's start with that first fact right there. They were helping themselves. They were subsidizing their income through their kids to pay Scientology to do services so that they could climb up statuses that are fake AF. But trust me, for them inside, as much as the outside can be like, yeah, but who cares about being clear? They did.
Yeah,
who cares
absolutely.
about being OT3? They did.
They did.
All these fake statuses that they're in there selling come with perks. And when celebrities climb those levels, the higher they climb, the more they're revered and worshipped as like these like special people, because L. Ron Hubbard was infatuated with celebrity influence. So, you know, it was ridiculous because, you know, the OT powers, the very OT powers, the operating Thetan powers, what they call in there, like, you know, that fake state. Some people were not OT, but they were celebrities.
Yeah.
Okay. And Scientology considered those celebrities that had no OT power level more OT than the people that would climb up to there and that didn't have the influence. So somebody could be an OT5 and then that still would be like a piece of trash because, okay, well, you're nobody. You're just like, what do you have? Oh, you just own a 7-Eleven in a corner. Okay, you're just going to that course room over there, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
you'll be pointed to the one that does leak occasionally, doesn't have the best AC. Yeah, you're gonna be sweating. Yeah, you're gonna be in that room.
yeah. So that's what we're calling out with these Scientology royal families. Shout out to the Presley family, Riley Keough. And, you know, it's almost painful for me to out Riley Keough the way we're about to out her because, you know, going back to her family lineage, you guys, starting with Priscilla Presley, who was child trafficked to Elvis.
Yeah,
It's all over the
14.
public record. As a literal minor, Priscilla was sent there by her parents to be Elvis's girlfriend. And, you know, people can be like, yeah, but back in the day, blah, 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 blah. Miss us with that. Back in the day, it was all okay and nobody cared. You know, humans should have cared. The humanity should have been there for somebody to really see, like, you know, that's what we're calling out parents. When parents see for themselves and then dump their kids in harm's way and they come up with all manner of excuses of like, oh, they were going into the Sea Org. Oh, I was helping her be close to a celebrity. You were washing away your hands of responsibilities that come to you as a parent. So dumb choices are choices that these Scientology parents are making. So Priscilla's there, trafficked herself, but then, you know, Priscilla then turns around and traffics Lisa Marie, sends her to Celebrity Center, you guys, where Lisa was literally passed over to random people that were in that hotel to take care of her. You know, she wasn't properly looked after. Priscilla was just a social climbing viper is all she became. She never did anything for herself that amounted to anything. She just ran around, you know, parading that name as if that really meant something. So she made a celebrity based on association. She had no skills of her own. And she was the worst mother you could ever find. Another one of these horrendous mothers that were so self-absorbed that they didn't give a shred of an F of their kids, you know, and maybe L. Ron Hubbard made her become that self-absorbed. Maybe she can blame it on L. Ron Hubbard. But you know what? You did it, you know?
Yeah.
So like L. Ron Hubbard influenced you, but you're the one that left Lisa there dumped at Celebrity Center with randoms. You know, Lisa that had develop a drug addiction problem early on. Because you guys, I mean, how can a kid be expected to survive an environment full of self-infantilized adults that are running around with delusions of grandeur that are not just any old delusion of grandeur? Oh, they were a little bit full of themselves. No. We're talking full-blown delusions of grandeur, completely dejected from any shred of reality.
Right? I don't think she has a form of reality. Like Priscilla is one that I don't like talking about because I think she's like that. I don't believe in hitting women, but you didn't even let your daughter she wasn't even in the ground long enough for anything. And you sue your granddaughter who's grieving the loss of her mother because she inherits Graceland. Like, what the ever loving fuck is going through this woman's mind? I don't like, if that doesn't tell you that she's been twisted.
It's all just speaks to her narcissism and her derangement and her lack of cognitive dissonance. And, you know, like her Viper Black Widow mode that she is. She wasn't even with Elvis anymore after he died, you
Like
guys.
the
I mean, the
70s?
only
He-
reason she
divorced
remained
in the
relevant
70s.
is because of having Lisa. Like, if she didn't have Lisa, she would have literally had nothing to do with Elvis.
Mhm.
So, you know, but then that same dysfunction is now being transferred over to Riley, who now does have a kid and now will be exposing that kid to Scientology. Because again, it's like the stupidity is transferable. Let's just give all of these people the benefit of the doubt that they're doing it not because they want to be satanic AF, not because they want to destroy kids, not because, never mind that that's what actually happens. Like, never mind. But let's just say that the stupidity is generationally transferred from one to the other. And the role models that they have for being good parents is those moms that they're made to worship. In the case of Riley, oh, my mom was so great to us. No, your mom was horrible too, Riley. Your mom gave you no stability. She was flying from here, flying from there, taking you to Michael Jackson, taking you to Cage, taking you to Hawaii, going back over here. Like, she couldn't stand still for a second. She was always running from something, you know? And, you know, Lisa Marie Presley had a horrendous, literally character. She used, you know, she was my student and she was like, she got me in so much trouble, you guys, because I flunked her. She had to do drills, Lisa, in my course room. And the stupid drills of L. Ron Hubbard had to be done exactly, precisely. Like, you couldn't change a comma, you couldn't change a word, you couldn't stumble. And Lisa was having a really hard time because, you know, now we know that she had, you know, what I would say is full-blown ADHD. She couldn't focus. So because she was having such a hard time on the drills, she took it out on me, and then she went and complained to RTC, and then she got me in trouble. And again, you guys, when a celebrity complains against you as a child slave, it's not going to be fun.
No.
What's going to happen to you? I mean, did any celebrities that you worked with ever complain about you, Liz? Or did you ever get in trouble?
Well, I got in trouble all the time. Like, got in trouble. Yeah. Every time I got off lower conditions, I somehow did something to get put on it. But from a celebrity, I almost got in trouble from John Travolta, because he was coming and we were supposed to all line up in his particular way so that he can take a picture for the general's daughter. And yeah, I was just, you know, it was one thing when we were all called up there. It was something totally different that it was supposed to be for a picture. So I kept trying to leave. Like, I got in trouble for that one, but it wasn't the celebrity complaining. It was the upper echelons.
So yeah, well, Lisa definitely complained to Elsie Tucker, who was RTC, her RTC handler, because again, these fake royals of Scientology, these fake royal celebrity families, the Presleys, the Robicis, they all have their very special VIP handlers. So so again, it's like, it's a dwindling spiral of deception. It's a dwindling spiral of stupidity. And the ones that have to foot the very real bill are the kids. Riley had to foot the bill for her mom. Lisa had to foot the bill for Priscilla, you know,
Yep.
and we had to foot the bill for our own parents, who also did the exact same thing that this woman did.
Yeah. Because I know my parents, my dad was so excited when I was in the Sea Org. It was like, oh, it's the greatest day ever, and my mom was just like, have fun, have lots of fun. I'll send you packages. And that was it. She didn't warn me. She didn't. No.
Yeah. And here from Paula says, Elvis rejected Scientology. No, yes, apparently he did. That's what's on the record. That he was like, he saw through the evil of these people just wanting his money and exploit him. So at least he was able to listen to his intuition and get rid of them. But I mean, again, the so-called king of rock or whatever he is has problems of his own for having been in a relationship with Priscilla at that time. And it's really unthinkable that the history of the culture of the United States has been there all along, with all of this child abuse happening over and over and over. And I'm going to be doing some reaction videos because Priscilla's been put on a tough spot to sort of speak about that, you guys, about the fact that she was married so young and whatnot. And you won't see Priscilla actually standing up for herself. You won't see her having some shred of self-reflection and be like, yeah, maybe, you know what, that wasn't probably the best idea. She just pretends that she's so, perfect and tough and a know-it-all. And she's like, she even in one of her interviews, she's like, no, I didn't go to therapy. I didn't need to. I was fine, like I dealt with it. But you know what? Lisa didn't deal with it. And look how it happened to her. And then Benjamin, Lisa's son, exposed to the scourge of Scientology, who literally off himself. What about him? Another one of these victims of these families that were up to their neck and ears in handlers, you guys. Like, again, it's like,
yeah, the president's office was guaranteeing, like, they were trying to cover it in roses and make their shit don't stink.
Well, they're just all about it, like Benjamin had handlers at Celebrity Center. Benjamin had handlers at the Fort Harrison Hotel, at Debbie Cook's Hole, and at Debbie Cook's Hotel. Benjamin Presley had handlers. He didn't like the audits. No kid can like an audit, you guys, because no kid is going to enjoy being locked against their own will. Let's just start with even just that. Like, we don't even have to go into the disgusting, intrusive questions, the hours and hours and hours ad nauseum that you have to pretend that you like it. You have to disassociate and tell them that you are loving being asked all of these disgusting questions. Because if you aren't capable of acting, literally acting, then you won't see an exit, literally. And then they're just literally just, okay, let's do a correction list. Let's ask you more withholds. Let's find out what's wrong with you. Let's find out what's wrong with you. Like, you have to love it.
Yeah. And you'll keep repeating the same question over and over and over until the person goes, I'm having a wonderful time. Can you not feel the excitement? But you actually have to mean it. Otherwise, you're stuck in there and you'll keep going over those questions and keep going over those questions. It's,
and as far as an enhanced interrogation, which is classified as torture, CCCIA, CCFBI, CC, all police departments that know what in the hell torture means. So you're in those cans, strapped, you cannot move, and you're going to be asked disgusting questions. You have a criminal felony for which you have not been arrested, and you're 12. And you're like, what in the literal hell are you at? Oh no, clear the word here, cleared felony. Do you see this definition? Do you see? Okay, so now make a 12-year-old understand what a felony is. And now make that kid come up with an answer to that question, because the machine says that there's a felony there. So and they tell you that the machine reads before you know it. So the machine knows more than you. So even if you're like, what in the literal hell are these clowns doing? No, it's your fault. It's your
Yeah.
fault. You're the disgusting person that is trying to withhold something from them. You are a no case gain. You are a pathetic person that doesn't want Scientology to work. And that's why it's not working. It's not that the technology doesn't work
Doesn't
in and of
work.
itself.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it doesn't, and that's the one thing that I always say that's the one thing. That is the one of many thousands of things that used to piss me off. It wasn't because I'm tired and I can't answer that question any more than I've already answered it. It's the fact that it keeps going and keeps going until you feel defeated, but you have to smile and grin and bear it. But inside, it's like a part of you is dying because you're just going over the same thing all the time. But you know your needle has to float, or you are the suppressive person. And if you're the suppressive person, you lose everything.
So you're constantly in the state of being like kidnapped and worked against your consent. Never mind that no kid can consent, but it's just a full-blown vicious circle.
Yeah.
Here's a question. How hard do you think it would be for a parent to realize they destroyed their child? Very few can do that, even though they should start the healing. Well, I love that question. And look, I would say it's not hard. And just so every Scientology parent can hear it in the terms that they can understand, get your MF ethics actually in. Get your MF ethics actually in, Scientology parents. Stop infantilizing yourselves. Stop pretending that your kids are adults in small bodies. They are not. Newsflash, is the year 2023. Maybe you believe that dumb pitch from L. Ron Hubbard decades ago. Maybe you thought that that was also your idea. Well, repudiate that disgusting idea. It's time to let go of that idea. And it's time for all of these parents to be called out, because I really like this question. The parents are the ones that are destroying the kids. Your parents are the ones that put you in harm's way. If our parents wouldn't have said that this was okay, Liz, we would have said, like, I went to that hotel and they locked me up for 8 hours and I couldn't get out.
Yeah. If I'd have told my Anna that, if I'd have told any of my family, what should have happened if they wanted to be in it, because they were adults, what should have happened is they should have relinquished custody so that either his family could have raised me or my mom's family could have raised me. But either which way, they should have relinquished it. So that way I didn't have to go through that. Because if I could go back and change something, I would yell at my parents and be like, bullshit, you're not taking me. Like, you're about to introduce me to the worst hell that I don't get over. So, or I have therapy to help me get through it. But either which way, no, I would go back and I would change that. Because if an adult wants to be there, fine. Don't take your child. Because my childhood was horrendous. It sucked. There were good times, but
utterly, I mean, the good times were when they were leaving us alone. The few times that we literally escaped for ourselves, you guys, literally, had kids that were there that, we got to not be L. Ron Hubbard proteges and be ourselves as kids. But then, we weren't allowed to have much of that, because then they would come and grab us right back and shove us in a room and tell us, okay, well, tell us why you're in a treason condition. At 9 years old, I was being told I was in a treason condition, that I had betrayed, I don't know who in the hell. At 9 years old, I remember sitting there and being like, and then you would write down what the question said. And then, it's intellectual abuse, you guys. It's just disgusting intellectual abuse of children. And again, these parents need to realize that they destroyed their child. And it wasn't just Danny's mom, and it wasn't just Giovanni Ribisi's mom, and it wasn't just my mom, and it wasn't just Liz's mom. It's every last shred of Scientology parent that bought the pitch from a convicted, indicted felon.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really not that difficult to really understand what in the hell is literally going on, and how can we all have the same stories of abuse and dysfunction. I mean, even in these other religions, I found this, that some people do say that they're having a good time in their religion and it works for them, and then it wasn't just abuse ad nauseum nonstop. So, but in our case, it's like nobody was afforded anything that wasn't abusive because everyone was being exposed to the grooming salons, the courses, the so-called courses, and these audits that dehumanize the end user always.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe as an adult, like you said, Liz, maybe as an adult, you could really make a case for yourself that you like it that extreme, that you get off on being humiliated, that you get off on being locked up against your will, that excites you, and you get off at, you know, staying there for 8 hours talking about yourself. I mean, that's how part of the narcissism is built through that whole thing, you guys. It's like, who can talk about themselves for 8 hours? Like, what is so interesting about you?
Or, you know, what crimes have you committed at 6 years old that you have to keep confessing to? Like, I had the hardest time when I was doing child auditing because it would be like, oh, I snuck into income so I could give my mom a hug. And that was considered a crime. If I climbed the tree so that I could see my mom, that was a crime. So anywhere you turned, I was somehow committing crimes because I would want to see my parent, or, you know, I want to see my dad, or I'd ask, hey, when is the next time I get to see my dad? Yeah, those are crimes. I'm just letting you all know. Those are crimes, and it does put you in lower conditions, and it does require a lot of auditing. Sorry, I can laugh about that now, but in the moment, I was having a bad day.
Well, yeah, I mean, we laugh at the absurdity of it all. The fact that we literally lived in this alternative universe where these self-infantilized adults were running around unhinged, unchecked, unstopped. They all contaminated each other. You know, like what I come up with the saying for this, Liz, is like, you know, keeping up with the Joneses. So all they had to do was like, oh, are the Joneses doing it? Then that must mean we can do it. Oh, the Joneses donated their child to the Sea Org.
So we should donate one of ours. Oh, we'll donate two. Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it was about, you know, most of the people were trying to one up someone. You know, you gave one, I gave two. You know, oh, and not only did I give two, I'm going to help donate blah. I'm buying this many courses for blah. You know, it was always like this competition of who was the better Scientologist. And people got ignored.
Well, and just so you guys know why I'm so hard about the corporate media, just to give you guys a little BTS, the Tampa Bay Times has had access to an innumerable amount of kids that were all subjected to these audits. Okay. And the Tampa Bay Times spent years pretending that it cared, years pretending that they wanted to find out. All at the end, after hearing all the stories, the same things that we're talking about here with Liz, to be like, yeah, but is it immoral or is it illegal to do this? Okay.
How about all of the above?
Well, yeah, but you know, in terms of the immorality of it all, they get into this, like, you know, again, very dejected way of thinking, right? Because it's all this elitist thinking where they're in this box as editors having thoughts because their thoughts are so important. Instead of just getting to the basics, kids are locked in a hotel. They cannot leave. Kids cannot consent. I don't give a shred of an F if my mom said I needed to do this. I don't give a shred of an F if my dad said I needed to do this. You know, turns out the child trafficking parents use their kids, put them in harm's way, and transactionally benefit from doing that without giving a shred of an F. Well, guess what these Scientology parents were all about, you guys.
Absolutely. You know what I thought of the other day, and it made me realize one thing that you and I have never talked about is we were forced to get touch assist from strangers, nerve assist from strangers. And if for those of you that don't know what a touch assist is, it's like, feel my finger, okay. Feel my finger, okay. And so that they touch, everywhere. I mean, I'm not talking like certain spots, but they touch your whole body, just like with a nerve assist where they're running their fingers up and down.
The intrusive nature cannot be overstated, you guys, because there was another one that's called CCH 8 or 9, where Elvin Hubbard said, touch that table.
And you have to walk the person over to the table.
No, this one was just you were standing by a table and it said, touch that table and then touch aberrated body part. Now, for all of you that don't know what an aberrated body part is, aberrated means, your private parts, basically. Literally, that's what they considered aberrated body parts. So I remember being 12 with this Spanish man that was a heroin addict that got recruited into Scientology to become a therapist. That was my first therapist. A heroin addict that had just come off heroin from their Narcanon program that was recruited to sign the billion-year contract and was put to do training, was telling me to touch that table, touch your ass, touch that table, touch your ass, touch that table, and you had to do it for hours on end. Literally, until you said that you had a cognition from someone telling you to touch a table and touch your ass. So again, in what world? And again, if we were actually manifesting signs of the very real abuse that was taking place, it was all just going to extend the torture. Now you got to do it for more time. Now we're going to have to flatten the process. They tell you that any bad emotion that you're getting is just something that needs to be flattened. So that's how they erode your emotions. And that's how they start turning you into this protege machine that they can mold on command. Very Pavlovian. I mean, that's all it is. This is just punishment, reward, punishment, reward. And the intellectual gymnastics required from kids is simply not available. They don't have the capacity and bandwidth to process such stupidity and such outrageous crossing of disgusting boundaries. And again, Liz, is it's not like her parents didn't know that was the process. They knew that was the process, you guys. It's not like any of this is it's not like the U.S.
I didn't know you were having those. Yeah. There was none of that. Our parents knew. Most of the time, our parents actually asked the adult because they were busy to go give this assist, let's go do this, and I can't tell you how many times I'd have a sunburn and I would be told, you're going to go have a touch assist because it burns. No, it's called blisters and they're popping and I'm on fire and I'm a kid. And I would have to go get touch assist. And they would just sit there and touch the sunburn like it was some kind of joyride. And all I could think of is, I hate my body. Because why is it my body gave me a sunburn? Because now I have to go through this. Right.
I mean, as kids being raised in that ridiculous environment of know-it-alls, because that's the problem with these guys, you guys, they're just know-it-alls. They know it. They're so, they were very good at playing the part, that they were so confident. And that's why all of our parents are nothing but cheap AF cons.
Yeah.
Confidence. They were relying on the confidence that the con man that sold them the pitch, that they were so special for submitting to him, submitting to L. Ron Hubbard, submitted to all the deranged, disgusting executives that were running the hotels in military uniforms, that really did have an effect on our parents. Our parents did look up to these people. It's like, oh, look at her. She's got all these bars. She must be so important.
Yeah. People, as a kid, there was a few things that I didn't understand as a child, but I never understood why some people, you can tell they were envious of my mom. And because of the ethics presence that she had, people were either A, envious, or B, scared shitless of her.
Because they relish on that power, you guys. They relish on the power to terrorize others, including but not limited to kids. So that's the problem with all of these, executives that want to blame everything on David Miscavige because he was the only one with the delusions of grandeur. Well,
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
They all were running around with those delusions. Yes, they want to pin it all on David because he was the highest of the highest. But all of them, including but not limited to Debbie Cook, was running around with her own version of being a psychopath, child trafficking, abusive woman that witnessed it, that watched it, that video recorded the abuse, because that's what we're talking about here. These sessions were video recorded, you guys. Touch that table, touch your vagina. Like literally, why would a 14-year-old girl be having to touch her vagina? Being ordered to touch her vagina by a grown-ass man or a grown-ass woman.
Yep.
Literally, for what purpose is that? For 4, 6, 8 hours. And you have to put in the hours, because even like sometimes, early on, I found out that if you told them that you were so happy because you didn't want to do it, then they would be questioning, well,
what are you withholding?
You did it for 5 minutes, so you can't be that happy. So let's stay here for 5 hours and let's see if that wind continues to be stable. So again, it was just a disgusting, horrific, abominable abuse of power, what all of these cons have that are proteges of L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah.
There's a question here that came up. So many laws broken against children, labor laws, sexual abuse. And why hasn't law enforcement even investigated and prosecuted? I've been listening since 2017. Well, thank you, Hope.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah. Thank you so much for watching since 2017. You've been watching longer than I have. So technically, woo-woo. Law enforcement absolutely knows. And why haven't they prosecuted? I have my own beliefs. They get a check at the gala every year. Thank you. Here's to your retirement fund. Here you go. Boo-boo. FBI, I have no idea, because the shit's still going on. The shit's still happening. There's hundreds of us that have experienced this and gone through this as children.
Well,
it's like they think we're...
Sorry.
For me, it's like they think we're going to suddenly go away and it's no longer going to be a problem. Oh, it's been so many years. No, because we still have to go through therapy to get through what we had to go through just to survive as a child. So
absolutely,
where are they? Your guess is as good as mine.
So many laws broken against children, labor laws, SA, and why hasn't law enforcement never investigated, prosecuted? I've been listening since 2017, and the stories are getting more heinous. And Hope, I like Liz says, thank you for having cared about this issue since 2017. Law enforcement has played dumb for a very long time. Law enforcement has literally been visited by me. At first I thought, okay, no kids have ever shown up to law enforcement. I mean, that was one of their good excuses at once upon a time when they really hadn't had a lot of kids showing up and saying, I'm being abused in there. I mean, never mind that law enforcement would catch runaways all the time to return them to these hotels. So, you know, I wasn't even thinking about that before, Liz, but, you know, law enforcement
Yeah.
always,
Brought him back
oh,
to
here's
TC.
this one. We just caught him at the corner of the beach and he's 14 years old and, you know, he belongs to the hotels. So law enforcement never called Child Protective Services. And again, it's like the corruption could not be more clear. In this year 2023, there is not a shred of doubt, and this is not conspiracy, and this is not, oh, you know, this and this and that. No. Law enforcement, especially the Clearwater Police, especially the LAPD, are up to their ears and necks in corruption for
Yeah.
their own ulterior motives, their own reasons to not give an F about kids. And, you know, as you were saying here, the stories are getting more heinous. Is we're just being heard right now. We're the kids that experience this abuse. For so long, the narrative had been so curated that the kids didn't have a chance to really be listened to. The corporate
Correct.
media dehumanized us, the kids that did go to them, by just churning out these pathetic, watered down, half baked narratives that they did put up for themselves just so they could make money, not because they give an F about the laws being violated. Just think about it, Hope. You know, the corporate media doesn't have a spine. They blow with the MF wind. Wherever the wind is blowing and they can make a little bit of money, that's where they're all running after that. They're not individual thinkers. None of them have ever infiltrated a shred of hotel so they could get eyeballs for themselves and run a real investigation because they actually care. Now, I get it. Maybe, you know, reporters are kneecapped by editors that are being kneecapped by corporations that are getting Yeah, the struggle of these pyramid schemes is real. You know, as much as we were born in a cult, what do you think these corporations become? You know, these money hungry corporations that don't have any shred of morality. All they care is making their boards happy with the profits of the advertisers that they're getting. That's all that matters. So if a story requires more money to actually get to the actual bottom of what in the hell, they don't give an F. And the Tampa Bay Times for a very long time has literally now for, I would say, almost the past 2 decades enabled all of this. You know, before they were a little bit more skeptical about stuff, but now they've been living with the scourge of this BS for so long, they no longer have a nose. They're so used to the smell of literal shit that for them it's like they're just in their own pigsty of city that literally is enabling the child trafficking of kids at scale and all of these abuses. And no, the media has never said that Scientology involves itself in child trafficking. It took us getting real attorneys, the attorneys that put Keith Raniere behind bars of Nexium, you know, because when we saw what Nexium was, women that were enslaved, we were like, well, that is exactly what they did to us.
Yep.
Well, never mind that Nexium didn't bother to do their 501c status. That's where Keith Raniere effed up big time. But that's the only mistake Keith Raniere made. Other than that, they had the same business model, except that the Scientologists are worse, you guys. The Scientologists did the slavery on kids at scale.
Yeah.
I cannot think of another group on earth that has these many underage kids strapped in these bondage, disgusting, self-serving contracts for themselves, enslaving kids in this modern age, in this year 2023. You know, nobody has ever been so kid obsessed like these Scientology hotels. Literally,
Yeah.
I mean, can you think of anybody that has at this scale, you know, the hundreds and hundreds
Pedophiles.
and hundreds? I mean, even like the priests and whatever, all these so-called religious orders, you never see hundreds and hundreds of minors being trained to be this priest. I mean, I'm sure that there's some and there's exceptions and whatever, but what's on the surface that I've seen is not to the level and extent that the Scientology do it. Because think about it, if the parent has no critical thinking skills, if the parents all full critical thinking skills are eroded, how are they going to protect their child? They don't.
No, they don't. Absolutely. Because I know with my mom, she believed everything that she was doing was correct. I've even tried the whole, if you please just admit that you abused me, we can move past this. And her response would always be, that's not abuse, that's discipline. So I finally had to let it go and just stop expecting to have that sincere apology, because I was never going to get it. Sorry, broken bones aren't discipline in my book. But for a parent to actually admit that they've done wrong, that one I don't know, because I haven't experienced it, but I hope someone else does.
Well, and again, right, guys, like at the end of the day, it's like we don't need their admission in order to change things. And that's why we're raising awareness with y'all. Because the more we raise awareness, the more y'all are in the know of what in the literal hell is going on. I mean, you've been relying on the corporate media to tell you, but so far, everything the corporate media says just leaves you more confused. It doesn't leave you with, okay, I get now what's wrong. They always leave you with this wishy-washy version of everything. Well, it could be illegal, but it's also maybe not illegal. And then it could be a religious freedom, but it's also maybe not so religious. But, it could be bad. And this person alleges something happened, but this other person, but, all it takes for Scientology to say is to put out ridiculous statements about how it's a squirrelous, ridiculous allegation. And then end of story, end of thing. Let's move on to the next thing. The media is looking for the next thing that they can make money on. So there is no follow-up because there is no care. That's all.
Yeah.
It boils down to that.
And if there is follow-up, at least in my experience, if there's any kind of follow-up, it's more along the lines of, hey, I know that you care about this story, but I heard that you know something about celebrities. Why don't you tell me that? And then we'll follow up with that. No, the topic isn't in regards to celebrities. The topic is in regards to my father.
Or fine, if you want to do celebrities, then really go and do a story on the president,
and go after them for real.
on Tom Cruise, on the Ravisis, on the Mastersons, on the fact that as celebrities, they all help themselves to child slaves.
Yeah.
Where is that story?
Yeah.
Nowhere. I mean, you're hearing it here for the first time in 2023. Like you were saying, it's like, it hasn't been told, it hasn't been said, it hasn't been admitted. And we are sick and tired of people waiting for them to admit anything. You know what? It's not in their best interest to realize and wake up to the facts. And yet we're having to do the heavy lifting to wake them the F up. And whether they wake up or not is not our problem. Our only responsibility we have now and the burden that we carry is getting the facts MF exposed.
Yeah.
Literally, here's the fact. We were locked up against their will. They're doing it to kids right now. We know how it works. And we can smell the rat when these people throw in a misdirector and, oh yeah, but isn't it? No. Miss us with your excuses. Miss us with your, I thought I was doing the best I could as a mother and I was a single mother. And, I thought my daughter was going to be really happy being child trafficked. Well, no. Priscilla Presley, Lisa was not happy being child trafficked. Lisa was not happy being dumped at Celebrity Center to be looked after by randoms. How dare you? And if you didn't get it, well, you know what? Get it now. Go to a mirror today and ask yourself those questions. And as we continue to raise this awareness, you guys, I mean, that is what we can do. You guys are knowing what it is now. And, you know, the more we spend time with y'all and we understand that Americans don't want to see children enslaved. For a
Correct.
long time, we just thought, okay, well, it must be us that didn't like it. It must be something really wrong with us, because we went to all these corporate medias and they all played us for fools.
Yeah.
Literally.
I can honestly tell you there was young children that were housekeeping for the Manor Hotel, and they would just scrub a room top to bottom, and they would bust their fanny every single time, every single room. And they were told, you're helping clear the planet by keeping this room clean so that we can have guests stay in the hotel. That is your job that you've been assigned. And same with the people that are assigned to Tom Cruise or John Travolta. If you raid his house right now, the most beautiful thing, you're not going to find that any of his staff is actually being paid by him. No, they're not contracted. They're Sea Org members, specifically chosen Sea Org members. One, they had to be pretty. Two, they had to be diehard Scientologists. And that way they can report everything. But I guarantee you, when they signed their billion-year contract, they never thought, you know what, I'm going to be a celebrity snitch. And then I'm going to be scrubbing his toilet. Like, isn't that amazing? I got to scrub Tom Cruise's toilet. And no matter what, it's part of their job. But, you know, where's those labor laws?
Yeah. And Tam Stanley, here's a good question. Is there any way to get the Church of Scientology letters to stop? Well, look, they need to be pressured by the authorities into stopping. They need to know and be told finally a very simple word that they're almost literally allergic to, which is this. If you say no to them, they have conniption fits. If you say no to them, they literally start short circuiting. No, what do you mean no? This is my religion. This is my right. I can do whatever in the hell I want. I can abuse kids. I can pay to abuse kids. I can enslave kids. America's a very free country. That's what we do in this country. The First Amendment couldn't be more clear that we can just all act as infantilized, abominable degenerates and, you know, put a little cross in front of us, and then everybody is fooled at the police stations. I mean, I wish we were kidding, you guys. I wish we were literally joking AF. But those are the facts of the reality of where we stand. So going back to what can you do, it's like, look, and I said this before in another live, okay, you guys. Number one, leave comments on our videos, questions that you have for the media, put it there. Then also go to the media. Whenever they do a Scientology story, start asking about the kids. Whenever you see the corporate media pitching BS, half-baked narratives, you all know now what in the hell you need to ask. We're not telling you the questions to ask. You hear what we share from having had a front row seat at this dysfunction. But we're not telling you what question to ask. We're telling you, you come up with your own questions and ask the media, why are kids being bound by contracts when they're underage? Why are Scientology parents never questioned for anything, as if they have no liability whatsoever, as if they have this cloak of impunity that has been granted to them by the stupid idiots at the IRS, who definitely took it upon themselves to give them a 501c status. But you know what? Even nonprofits have to abide by the laws. There's no such thing as existing above the law, except if you are in one of those hotels. Okay, so let's just start with that fact. Those hotels act as lawless centers of corruption and state-sponsored child trafficking of minors at scale. Yeah. So, of course, the government doesn't really want to wake up to any of this, because they will have feces all over their face. The blood of all the kids that have been trafficked into this country, you guys, is on this American government that has been state sponsoring these hotels to operate with impunity and without a shred of guardrails, without a shred of common sense to be found anywhere near those hotels.
Yeah.
And it's not like we don't have the laws that say, like, you know, you guys already pointed, like, this is complete child abuse. Like, what in the literal hell? There are no mandated reporters inside those MF hotels, you guys. Literally, let's just start by that. They purport that because they have a special technology from L. Ron Hubbard, who gives an F about mandated reporters? In fact, they started a fake misinformation war about how psychiatry and psychology are the enemy of the whatever because they're mandated reporters.
You know who's also a mandated reporter? A doctor. You know who's also is the dentist. So if we have to
They're
suddenly go to
anti-doctor,
the
they're anti-therapy, they're anti-lawyers. I mean, even lawyers, they don't want you to really go to a lawyer. I mean, if you're going to go to a lawyer, it has to be a vetted lawyer. It has to be one. I mean, look
Yep.
at what happened with Danny Masterson, Sean Hawley. Very vetted by Scientology, very safe, will capitulate to anything, has not a shred of a spine, will not advocate on the best interest of her own client, but will take notes from the MFs that are running this corrupt, disgusting, racketeering enterprise that Miss Hawley doesn't see with all of those certificates and all of those pitches that she goes and has her little press interviews about how she's one of the best of the best of the country. Whatever. Sean Hawley, you couldn't have been more pathetic in your representation of Danny Masterson. You and Philip Cohen should have gone to Danny Masterson and literally give him a wake-up call from hell that he needed to realize that he is implicated. And he's not just some little victim that people are just running around with rumors, because we all know how hard it is to get a conviction in this country for that type of abuse. And that's why they always get away with it. Well, you know what? This time he didn't finally get away with it, given that there was so much evidence against him, given that he was a member of Scientology, given that Scientology writes reports about everything, since Scientology is highly implicated in the full-blown literal obstruction of justice, you guys. I mean, it all connects, but everyone acts like, you know, nothing connects. And, you know, we have to be very respectful of the people at the hotels, to not disrespect them, because God forbid we insult them about the religion they adopted that was founded by a convicted, indicted felon.
Yeah.
I mean, again, where is the intellectuality of any reporter, any police person, or any lawyer that has been around this and didn't even realize, like, was L. Ron Hubbard a convicted felon? Are we really saying that a convicted felon can write memos that can literally just black out the Constitution so you can be held against your will? Yeah, get that scratched off the Constitution. This memo from L. Ron Hubbard will say that you can keep someone locked against their will, and just because L. Ron Hubbard said it, just scratch that part of the Constitution. Doesn't apply.
Yep.
We don't care if we live in America. America doesn't give an F, and that's all that happens. With the Constitution, this is what they do.
Yeah. Just like any doctor that walks into any one of those hotels and sees children running from point A to point B, scrubbing cement, scrubbing the floors, scrubbing anything, but doesn't report it.
Yeah.
Not one shred of iota when a Sea Org member goes to the dentist, and obviously you can tell by their demeanor, their cheeks are sunk in because they've been in so much pain for so long that it now becomes unbearable. But for some reason, these doctors, these dentists, don't report it. It means nothing to them. They're Sea Org members. They're part of the Scientology family. So why should I abide by, you know, what I swore an oath to? Because it means nothing.
And again, that's why we're calling this a full-blown organized crime syndicate of child trafficking of minors at scale, you guys. This is Jeffrey and Jelaine's little tiny business model that they were doing it, the black video recording of black, you know, smearing compromised information that they were, you know, getting all these people compromised. Well, Scientology does the same thing, but they do it at scale, and they do it state-sanctioned. And they do it by recruiting minors from all across the world, and they have a very specific model to really see which minor it won't cause them a problem, and it has worked for decades, you know.
Yep.
But things are crumbling down right now, because going back to like how now they're all crisis management about, well, if Danny got convicted for R, then we need to make sure that all the other R's that we know that we've been selling them programs to help themselves, you know, they're right now scattering them all around the world. That's what they'll do. It's like, oh, you live in Florida and this could be a problem here. Okay, well, you know what? You need to move out of the country.
Mhm.
Like literally, they will take it upon themselves. Like, oh, man, just go to South Africa for the next 8 months and go get lost there. In South Africa, no one will know about this. So again, the business model of Scientology was to launder these felonies. And that's why none of these attorneys that are part of this team of Scientology attorneys defending the religious beliefs of literally gang members that work in a gang criminal syndicate unit, a criminal conspiracy that is state-sanctioned. So, I mean, it really just what it boils down to.
Yeah. See, I don't think there's anything I can say on that, because is there any way to get the Church Scientology letters to stop?
Well, no, like I would say, guys, just send your comments on YouTube, on their Instagram accounts. The LAPD has an Instagram account. The Clear Up Release has an Instagram account. The Tampa Bay Times has an Instagram account. The LA Times has an Instagram account. And there's already 117 of y'all right here in the chat. If 117 people showed up at those comments, guess what? These people will start panicking. If all of y'all start asking children questions about kids in Scientology, then they will start panicking. Then they'll start being like, oh, look, we're getting called out for being BS pathetic clowns. Again, if there's no repercussions for the media that has no spine, they won't respond. So what y'all can do is please, please, please help us. Instagram, LAPD account, Clearwater Police account, Tampa Bay Times account, LA Times account. Let's just literally start with those 4. And same on YouTube. They have accounts on all of that. That's why we keep tagging them. Every time I put something on the community post, I tag them. When I put things on the community post and I'm tagging them, feel free to ask your questions and leave it in the comments. Hey, Tampa Bay Times, why are your headlines always watered down when it comes down to children? I mean, you guys, go Google it for yourself. GTS, what the Tampa Bay Times said Jenna had in that hotel. A, quote, rocky childhood in church.
Yeah.
I mean, all of these stupid ass reporters think that, you know, they can't get the word church out of their mouth. Every other sentence is the church, because they pretend that if they just say church everywhere, then it's a very, you know, non-biased reporting.
Yeah.
Never mind that they're not getting the facts. Never mind that they're just pretending that they're writing a news segment, but they're not investigating a shred of thing. Literally.
Here's my question, because I think I might be reading this wrong. So, Tam, is there an easy way to get the Cult of Scientology letters to stop? So does that mean that you're receiving their mailings on a regular basis? If you could let me know. The way that I've told other friends, you can return to sender, but put on there SPTV is amazing. Aaron Smith Levin's my best friend. That's what or you can just write on there, I'm gay, and draw a little flag. That'll get you off the mailing list pretty quick. What about you? Any ways you think of getting off a mailing list?
No, you know what, guys? Get on their mailing list and start actually documenting all of that as evidence. Because you know what? Their mailers have literal testaments, literal photographs of kids that are in there right now. So let's have a different opinion about these letters and all this stuff. I know it looks all like junk mail, but these criminals do tell on themselves, you guys. All they do is they think that because they put things in very glossy magazines and they're sending all of this information to corrupt, compromised part of their criminal syndicate, active Scientologist, then this should be all okay. So I think that we should start actually collecting all of that evidence and then literally building our own case. Here, police, you say that there's no minors? Well, look at this magazine. Here's a minor, here's a minor. This is just, you all keep telling us, oh, we need current people search, otherwise we can't start a case. Well, you know what? The current people are in there. You know, and again, if everyone's going to pretend that these adults, that no one can ask a question, that no one can advocate on behalf of kids that are being locked against their will, then guys, we have no solutions then. If as adults, we cannot advocate on behalf of those kids that need the advocacy, then we would all just fall down and literally, you know, feel worthless. But going back to our point here is like our power is in strength in numbers.
Yep.
The fact that there's so many SPTV creators, the fact that we all understand that we have been kept apart from each other. They've been compartmentalizing all of us so that we couldn't put the pieces of the puzzle together. So we could blame it on ourselves, that it was just us. I mean, Liz, you know, it's like with you for the longest time thought that you were some sort of, you know, really screwed up person, that the problem was you. Because of, you know, so, and again, it's like when people under the radar start seeing these videos, it's impossible for them not to unbrainwash themselves when they hear the stories that we're talking about, that we're not being apostates anything. We're literally telling it like it is. We're not okay with the abuse of kids. That's the only difference today. And you know what? It's like the abusers can hear and be as insulted as they want if we are going to shit all over their stupid ass memos from a convicted felon. That is our love letter to them, you guys, to destroy that delusion that is driving the criminal behavior that they are involving themselves in, you know. And then as far as adding pressure, it's like every time you get exasperated with what we're talking about, find any Scientology media and write questions to them. They will hate you guys. They will literally hate to have their comment section swarmed by advocates of children in Scientology. So you know what? What a great question. Let's start that campaign. Every time you guys see anything coming out about Scientology, ask the media about the kids. As much as they pitch all this stuff about Danny Masterson and say, okay, we'll find out, well, what about Carol Masterson? Have y'all has she gotten any tough questions from anybody? Is she implicated in what happened with Danny, given that she was CC'd and told as the momager, as the mom, as the person that the president's office was liaising with? She knew it all, so it's not like she didn't know it. So again, it's like, you know, the problem is if nobody is holding them accountable and they have no pressure, that's when they go with the wind. But when all of our voices are showing up in their comments and are asking questions, you know, then they cannot play dumb anymore. Because again, you guys are the ones with the power. Knowledge is power. Well, you're showing up to our lives, hopefully not to be depressed, but hopefully to be OMFG. This is not the country that I want to be a part of. This is not the city I want to be a part of. I do not want to live with the scourge of modern day child slavery in this year 2023. Because I mean, we know that that's what we have in these comments. We know that's who is in our community. We know that's who's checking out our videos. People that are wanting to advocate for those children. I mean, we've seen so much of our own healing from all the amazing comments we get, from all the feedback, you know, telling us that, you know, we thought that we were just so stupid that we didn't go to high school, that we have no idea what in the hell we're talking about, and that we couldn't have been, you know, the worst communicators of the world, literally, because we've been treated as if that's who we are. that we don't know what the hell we're talking about, that we're just so stupid and so ridiculous, and that we deserved everything that happened to us. Well, everyone in the comments, not the reporters, not the police people, not the people that actually are responsible for stopping anything and that have power, quote unquote, is y'all in the comments that
Yeah.
are actually telling us, no, you speak very clearly. No, I understand now what the problem is. No, this is just completely corrupt. People that are mandated reporters. No, this would have been reported in my school in 1 second. No, this cannot happen like this. No, they cannot take your passport. That's and we just thought, okay, well, they took our passport. Like that was so normal.
Like it was
there.
it was normal. It was not that big of a deal. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you mean I can keep my own private identity stuff? What? Oh my goodness. Like I didn't know. No, we didn't know. Like I didn't have any clue that it wasn't okay that I don't have my documents. But then at the same time, it was also one of those things where you're like, well, I'm not going anywhere. I have 1 billion years, so my passport will expire before my 1 billion years will. But it was not different for me inside. Now, as an adult, I'm like, don't touch my driver's license, don't touch my social security card. But that's with waking up.
Yeah. So I think that, if anything, I think that is a very good idea, that we just, take our power back. And the power comes in the questions, you guys, just like the questions that we had today that you guys like so much that we haven't even gotten through any of them except for one.
Just one.
But,
Just one.
it was deep questions, but it's like, questions actually ignite the critical thinking skills of people. And we are living in a pandemic where people have not a shred of critical thinking skills, where they can be swayed by all of these bullshit narratives that are half-baked with all these brands of news, that are nothing but propaganda. That's what it is, propaganda. Like it's just popular culture and wrapped up in a little candy so that everybody gets off about knowing that this happened and that happened. But, in 3 minutes, they really want to take on child trafficking. I mean, that's why we're doing these lives on these channels. We don't want to be caught off. We're not going on and on about a subject. Hopefully you guys are not sick of us talking about the same thing, but there's so much to it. It's a complex subject. It's not something, it requires heavy lifting. It requires getting into the very deep weeds of the shit. Otherwise, all we get is nothing changes if nothing changes.
Yeah. And nothing's going to change. We're telling you a lot of our history and a lot of our stories because it's not about, the shit we went through being like we could change what happened to us. We're not telling you so that you can change what happened to us. We're telling you so that you're fully aware if this happened to us during this year, if this happened to me this year, and it's still happening to you years later, then guess what? It's still happening. All of these people are coming out saying, look, this is what I went through. This is what I experienced. This is who did it. And unfortunately, the stories all add up. It's still continuing to happen. There's still kids inside. There's not people having kids because they're forced to have an abortion if they get pregnant. But at the same, in that very same breath, there's absolutely 14-year-olds signing that contract with their parents' consent so that they can be really good Sea Org members.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's still happening.
So I think that, if everyone just takes it upon themselves to start asking questions and, become advocates for the kids, right? That's all you need to do. I'm advocating on behalf of those kids. They don't deserve it. They need as many advocates as they can have. The corporate media is not the advocate for the kids. They don't have a heart. They don't have a soul. They only think and care about money. They will take on the story, very similar to what happened with the Utah mom, which actually I'm going to do a whole live with No Culty Vibes on this.
Nice.
yeah, specifically, did you hear about that Utah mom, the YouTuber that had 2 million followers?
Yeah.
So it says one of YouTube's most famous family creators was arrested on child abuse claims. Viewers think they saw it coming. And I mean, you guys have seen this coming all this time. Never mind that Scientology has a way to kill off all trafficking child stories that try to come out. I mean, at least we do have a civil lawsuit in federal court. And if it doesn't get thrown out into arbitration, there might be some more very real details where shit really gets real there. It's not
Yep.
just allegations, it's literally getting found out and discovery. And that's when stuff gets very real. But, you know, going back to this YouTuber, it's like people saw the dysfunction that this woman had. People saw that she was abusing her kids. Like this woman was disgusting. And she just totally reminds me of a Scientology parent list. She like everything was punishments to those kids. It's like,
Yep.
go sleep in a beanbag, stop complaining. And then she would play off this like, oh, haha, I yelled at my kids. Ha, ha, ha. And, you know, you could tell that she was just being a complete, horrific, disgusting woman. But yet it took a literal 12-year-old to run out of his confinement desperately screaming for help before the guys with the guns that are very scared of, you know, it's like, what do we need to do to give these cops some actual power? I mean, maybe we're completely wrong, Liz. Maybe they are handicapped AF and they cannot do anything. But it's like, well, how are we going to enforce laws if we cannot enforce any laws? I mean, literally,
Right?
I'm like,
Because realistically, how do you enforce, you know, a child not being touched by an adult? You outside in the real world, the person's arrested and sent to prison. You know, if someone gets SA'd, again, arrested, goes to prison. But behind those walls, they turn around and say freedom of religion. And for some reason, some of these people that hold guns suddenly get scared. How much do you qualify as it as a religion? Was it when we were eating rice and beans and barely able to stand up? Was it when we, you know, had to have some other person physically touching our body and calling it an assist? Or was it when we were basically not allowed to be kids and we were running around like wild animals and not seeing our parents and not knowing how to be or how to be a part of civilization? Like, at what point do you finally say, okay, enough is enough?
well,
If this is what's going on, let's help them.
well, and Goldie just brought up a really good question, a really good statement here. Cops mindlessly follow their DA's orders. And yes, I agree. You know, the DAs are the ones that set the temperature as to what cases will be taken because of all this, you know, prosecutorial discretion. I mean, that's their way of the law figuring out if they want to take on a case or not. And I'm not saying they're not overwhelmed, guys. I'm not saying that they're not having a lot of it, but you know what? America is full of money.
Yeah.
This country has a ton of money. And if money flows into helping these DAs do their work, then more of this
Getting
can
elected.
happen. And again, they only crisis manage according to where they feel they need to crisis manage, you guys. So this Scientology story has not hit its peak. I mean, it's hitting some peaks right now with the Denny Masterson. I mean, we're seeing it. People are really waking the F up. And it's actually revealing a much bigger, deepened iceberg structure, you know, because Hollywood has not really been called out or implicated. Even on the Me Too movement, it was all just like, oh, it was all Harvey Weinstein, you guys. He was the only one. Did Harvey Weinstein have no enablers? Did no one help that man clean up all of
Every
that?
one of the people that went to his island.
Oh,
Every
Harvey
single one of them.
Weinstein. No, that was Epstein. But Harvey Weinstein was the director that was
He was,
literally
yes.
abusing actresses. So, you know, who was helping Harvey Weinstein in Hollywood do what in the hell he was doing, right? So Hollywood has not had any shred of moral reckoning. The Me Too movement is a platitude that was used to purport that, yeah, women are going to be really helped and things are really about to change. Well, you know what? A few women did get some help. A few predator maybe. I don't know how many really actually got anything out of actually being called out. But you know what? People are running around a little more scared of doing what Danny and Harvey were doing because there are consequences and justice did take place.
Yep.
Well, imagine what would happen. And that's why I'm so glad that this YouTuber mom, child abuser, degenerate that she is, that is literally rotting in a jail cell right now without even a shred of possibility to post bond. Okay, that's what happens to child abusers. CC all literal Scientology parents who are somewhere in the spectrum of what that woman was doing to those kids. So before you come and tell us you're the most ethical group on the planet, if you considered what that woman did to those kids the most ethical thing that you could be doing, then you will be joining her very soon. Because again, you guys, the fact that you are showing up, the fact that you are paying attention, the fact that you are getting educated, informed, knowledge is power. How are you supposed to advocate for what are you advocating if you don't get told what in the hell's going on and you don't understand from people that were there, like Liz and myself as kids saying, this happened
This
to us
happened.
guys. And we had a front row seat at the dysfunction and we're calling it out. We're not giving you the watered down, laundered version. Well, you know what? L. Ron Hubbard did really mean very well, but you know, some policies didn't get applied. BS. The problem is the policies were applied.
Yeah.
Not the policies didn't get, the policies were being applied. That's the problem. Had the policies been scratched off, had they been watered down, had a
Or
lawyer,
have they been burned?
well, had a lawyer gone through each one of those stupid ass memos and says, this is illegal, this is going to get you into legal jeopardy, this is going to be a really big problem if you do this to kids. I mean, with all of those retainers that these attorneys have, they could have taken it upon themselves to go through all the memos and scratch up all the illegal things that were going to be incentivized by L. Ron Hubbard's stupidity. But, you know, Scientologists are so pressed to impress L. Ron Hubbard and adulate him and, you know, purport that he's the grandmaster daddy of disgusting child trafficking abuse. I mean, L. Ron Hubbard is the literal god of child trafficking, you guys. There's nothing else that L. Ron Hubbard did. That's his legacy, child trafficking at scale. It started with child trafficking minors in ships.
Yep.
Okay, so, you know, he didn't have an island a la Jeffrey Epstein, but, you know, no worries. He just put all the minors on a ship and he just sailed around and was traveling with all manner of minors, you know, Janice and Shelly Miscavige and Biddy Miscavige and all these minors that were literally being recruited and child trafficked to L. Ron Hubbard by those minors' parents. So going back to that whole thing, is like you cannot have this problem at this scale in this magnitude if the parents are not in on it. And if the parents are not gaining financial rewards from doing it, if they're not being incentivized to, you know, let go of the responsibility of being a parent.
Yeah. They're, you know, dropping kids off and have a good day, have a good course, you know, go have fun building clay models.
But as we continue to educate everyone here, I mean, now you guys know. Now you guys know. I mean, we're telling it to you as raw as we know it, so that, you know, again, now you understand. It's like, yeah, it's outrageous. Those kids shouldn't have had that happen to them. We understand that it shouldn't have happened to them and should have not happened to us. But, you know, who's going to advocate on our behalf if we don't advocate for them ourselves? Like, again, you know, even this corporate media, like I said, you know, I'm not expecting them to say what I'm saying and parrot it down and take my word for it. They can go to the hotels themselves.
Yeah.
You know,
Any
like,
one of them.
literally any one of them, and just be there and do their own due diligence and do their own heavy lifting and take photos of, oh, there's a minor. Where do you come from? Oh, I'm from Portugal. Oh, where do you come? I'm from Colombia. Where do you come from? Oh, I'm from Mexico. How old are you? I'm 12. How old are you? I'm 16. How old are you? I'm 13. There. Story made.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So you really
Or
have
just walk into AOLA, walk into Bridge Publications, walk into any
Celebrity Center,
Any of 'em.
Clearwater, anywhere. Then this was interesting. I was being audited before kindergarten. Tam Stanley. Well, we're very
I'm
sad
sorry.
to hear that, Tam, that you were being audited before kindergarten, but we can attest that that is how it goes. Like Scientology parents, I mean, there's babies, literal babies, guys, that come out of the wound and they're already the Scientology parents. I mean, I remember being audited literally, I don't know, I must have been 2 or 3 years old, and they were doing processes on me. I remember my dad, like, pointing at things and, like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to think of how old I was when my child auditing started. I think I was 3 because my parents separated. Um, I think I was 3 years old when my child auditing started.
Yeah. Here's a question. Did anyone wonder if L. Ron Hubbard did SA with any of his youngsters and runners? I haven't heard that he did that. I wouldn't be surprised if he did, because again, he was treated as he was some sort of god. He created a master-slave connection.
Mm-hmm.
So all these kids were, pretending that he was this big celebrity almost. Like he tried to make himself as if it was this big celebrity person. But I mean, I guess that's more of a question for the people that were at that ship. We didn't know L. Ron Hubbard, but I can tell you the executives at the hotels definitely essayed the kids. And the people that were coming in to get their sessions, to get their freak on with minors that they could pay and hand select, definitely essayed kids.
Yeah.
These kids were, like Liz said, you had to be gorgeous, you had to be stunning to be on the front lines. If you weren't that thing that they were looking to have really perfect image, then they would literally just send you to go wash dishes. They didn't want you anywhere around. You had to look the part. Again, auditions. That's what they were into.
Yep. And and besides that, you also had the amount of physical abuse and emotional abuse was every single day. Someone was getting screamed at, got in their face, inches away, and you could hear their whole beingness or body or whatever it is. You can just feel them just slipping further and further inside themselves. Yeah. The amount of abuse is still going on there.
Yeah, definitely. And here's another. He says, super chat. Thank you, Jen. Serge, I just want to say that at first your passion intimidated me, but I will say now, even though your raised voice triggers me, I can appreciate everything you're doing. Well, thank you so much, Jen. Yes. Anger is very healthy for victims to have, because we feel the anger we were never able to feel, and the anger is never targeted at y'all. It's always targeted at the Scientology parents and the crooked executives. Those are the two people that we have a lot of anger that we are directing towards. And then the corporate media is also people that make us very angry, because today, you guys, part of understanding our intuition, following our intuition, smelling when we're being gaslit.
Yeah.
We have that ability now. We were born without that compass, because that compass was literally turned against us by the people that wanted it to have it that way. Well, we are now obliterating their stupidity and their corruption. And part of the obliteration is calling it out and not capitulating and actually being angry. Like, somebody needs to be angry at these kids. And I don't know about you, Liz, but it's like, for me, it's like, I need to, like, this journey is about being the person that you needed when you were inside the hotels. When I
Yeah.
was stuck in that hotel, nobody was advocating for me, including but not limited to even my family. My family wasn't advocating for me. They didn't care. They're like, well, you know, he did sign a contract. I'm sure he loves it there. When I was locked up in Debbie Cook's hole, and literally from 16 to 18 was made to be the therapist of a self-admitted pedophile that was abusing me for 2 years, nobody gave an F. Nobody
Yeah.
asked about me. Nobody wrote a story about a shred of thing. Nobody called out my parents. Nobody called out the dysfunction. Nobody called out the corruption. Okay, well, maybe at the time they didn't really know. I mean, never mind that some people did leave. But, you know, it's only this year, 2023, that we really are actually allowed to have our voice, and we have a community of people that want to advocate and stand next to us, as, you know, we're all abuse survivors. I mean, this is really what this is. You know, I mean, a lot of you have had, you know, narcissistic parents of your own that didn't need L. Ron Hubbard to entitle them to
Correct.
become these deranged psychopaths that they were. And, you know, you see us advocating on this. Well, we're advocating for you as well. We're advocating for all of our inner childs that were damaged by people that took it upon themselves to damage that childhood, that to steal our innocence, to manipulate and take our naivete and gullibility. Well, you know what? We're not gullible today. We're not naive at all. We
Yeah.
literally can smell the rat a million miles away, and we don't give a shred of an F, and we will be fierce advocates.
For
We're
everyone.
not scared of anyone or anything. We know we have the truth on our side, and it's only a matter of time before the corrupt enablers of all of this dysfunction start feeling threatened. Because the LAPD needs to feel the fire under their, you know exactly what in the hell we mean. The Clearwater Police needs to feel the fire under the, you know exactly what in the hell we mean. The Tampa Bay Times, same. The LA Times, same. Otherwise, they
Yeah.
don't give an F.
Everybody needs to feel that the truth is going to come out. You know, all of these lies are going to be exposed. We're exposing little bits of lies here and there, as just so you know. But just to give you the update, yes, every single lie is going to be exposed, because I know me as a second generation is tired of hearing them and tired of being lied to. So I think that all of it should be exposed, so that way I don't want just one man arrested. I want the whole thing demolished. I want no child to be hurt. I want no child to feel like they are less than human. I want no person to stand on one of their buildings and be fully prepared to jump. I want that to stop. Rice and beans, enough. $50 a week, enough. I want all of it to stop.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that, you know, you guys, like when Liz shared that story about her going to that building about to jump and all of that, for me to understand that I had the exact same story, exact same thing happened to me. Never mind that I was across state lines all the way in Florida. She was trying to jump out of a building in California, and I was trying to jump out of a building in Florida, and Jenna was trying to jump out of a building in LA. And again, it's like, this is what we're saying is absolutely unconscionable and cannot continue to be done. Those people that are entitling themselves to abuse those kids need to be told to stop and need to see the very real consequences, the very real legal consequences that are already available in our laws as we speak, and actually just start getting charged. Child neglect. The neglect was there. It's all over everywhere. Child abuse, the child abuse. And just so you know, you guys, it's like, as much as people will go like, oh yeah, but everything's so hard to prove. BS. L. Ron Hubbard made these people write every single thing they were doing to us. We have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages of receipts.
Yeah.
You know, that time that Liz tried to jump, is literally written in her folder when it happened, when she said that,
Yep.
who saw it, who was part of the handling, who did this. It's all crisis management. That's why, the thing with Danny Masterson couldn't have been easier to prosecute if they would have implicated Scientology, who was all about obstructing justice. All they needed to do was read the Jane Doe's folders, and literally it's all there. Danny came and told us today that he had an out to D and he was very drunk and he gave her this and that and she did drink it and then she went on. All of that is written. So again, it's like the fact that these people are trying to be like, oh, we had not a shred of an idea. No.
Yeah, and they not only put it in your folder, but the higher execs talk about it. So, and then you get told that the higher execs are talking about it. I got told, congratulations, you pissed off the CC network LRH com. Congratulations. I was told that I pissed off Amy. I remember Amy very well, and I love the person that she is now. Was I scared shitless of her as when I was in the Sea Org and when I first got out? Yes. Absolutely. She had fear. But now I'm like, she's an amazing person. But I was told that my boss knew, my boss's boss knew, and that they were informing my father that I just tried to jump off this building. And yeah, they write everything down. Not only do they write everything down, so let's not be totally, ignorant. At those hotels, every inch of the property is covered in cameras. There is camera evidence galore. There are servers in the building. They keep everything. So yes, there is certificates. There is the proof. They keep everything.
Yeah. So, and it is video recorded too. So it's not only the contemporaneous notes, because I saw a question here about, do they also video recorded? It is video recorded. And that's why criminals, the law is very specific about this. It's like people cannot be charged with crimes if they were like maybe not knowing that it was a full-blown crime. You have to prove that there was criminal intent, that there was premeditation. Well, these people are fully premeditated. They have all the receipts. They have all the cards. They have all the power. They relish on that fake AF power. That's all. They just give it to themselves and they get off on having that power because they pretend to be able to be know-it-alls without a shred of consequences. And who can blame them, you guys? In 73 years, nobody has literally made a dent on this technology of L. Ron Hubbard getting actually called out for what in the hell it is. It is policies that incentivize people to become felons. It is policies that incentivize people to work against their humanity, against their best interest. And, what kind of kid can survive that environment? I mean, why? Why would you ever have kids involved? Period. I mean, that's really what we're asking.
Yeah, and there's also those very same policies that say do not sue another Scientologist, do not report another Scientologist to the police. There's the fear of God, and but it is the fear of God that if you do this, if you go to law enforcement, if you tell anybody what's going on, you will be ostracized. Like, fuck having any of your friends, fuck any of your family. You're on the street and it's fine. I don't care how old you are. You could be 16. Go live on the street. You're fine. Bye. You broke the rules. And they do it without hesitation.
Mm-hmm. Question, do you think that they will stop after all of this? Makes me worried they will. Well, Kelly, we were just speaking about this. I don't know if you caught this part, but we're talking about empowering all of y'all that show up in our lives as advocate for the kids. They will stop when there's enough peer pressure on them to stop. They will stop when people know, right? We're bringing in the sunlight as the disinfectant, awareness. If people are aware, then it can be stopped. If people understand that L. Ron Hubbard is a full-blown convicted felon and no kid is safe around a parent that's following the memos like a robot without a shred of critical thinking skills, without actually saying like, well, you know what, that's not a good idea that I'm asking my kid if he's ever had sex with a member of his own family. I shouldn't be doing that. You know, going back to what's his name, Masterson. You know, imagine Masterson, if Masterson was a hypersexual kid as a 12-year-old, you guys, Masterson was locked up in that celebrity center being asked disgusting sexualized questions that were none of any adult's business, except his mom wanted to know, except everybody wanted to erode all his boundaries. And who knows, that could have led to his mental breakdown, his very real mental psychotic breakdown of wanting to harm others, to literally take his anger on victims, on innocent girls that had not anything to do what in the hell his mom was about. If he had anger issues, he should have taken him with Carol, the one that was black, that was literally child trafficking, the one that was literally exposing him to all these audits where he was being abused in the audits themselves. Talk about doing things without consent. Do you think Masterson's consent was actually ever considered? And
No.
that's what we talk about, Sean Hawley being the worst lawyer that ever graduated an MF law school in this country. If that woman was paid God knows how much money, and she has not a shred of clue. I mean, fun fact, you guys, here it goes. When I left the Sea Org, I got into a legal problem because I was found to be shoplifting. Okay, another one of these mental health issues that get developed as a result of being child trafficked and abused. Of course, I blamed it all on myself. Of course, when my lawyer tried to find out if Scientology was the reason, I blamed it all on me, and I told my lawyer to stop asking if it was Scientology. Okay, but these lawyers were advocating on my behalf, and then they even helped me. And I mean, my shit was nothing like Danny. I just shoplifted at Neiman Marcus, and literally I learned there that the lawyers were advocating on my behalf, and it actually helped me to see how the courts were not the ethics that I was used to at that hotel. When I was found out shoplifting, you guys, I literally blamed it all on myself and thought that the law was going to lock me up for years on end. You know, and never mind that it was a first offense. Never mind that they take so much context and so much care to administer that justice. They're not willy-nilly like those hotel places where it's a kangaroo court of people that completed 2-course hotels. So I have a lot of respect for what goes on in those courts. Never mind the system's broken. Never mind it's overloaded. Never mind that it's almost impossible for us to now get the justice we deserve. Okay, fine. Never mind, those are real human reality problems that we can deal with as adults today.
Yep.
So, you know, but Kelly, just to go back to your question, is it will stop when there is actually an appetite in America to make it stop. And, you know, I feel like every day we come here, that appetite continues to
Grows
grow,
a little bit.
you know, and that gives us hope. And you know what? We haven't had hope, you guys. We literally felt as defeated as y'all, literally being like, my God, this is never going to stop. The corrupt media won't let us get into the weeds of anything. They want to gloss everything over. They want to glib everything over. They want to exploit our information. They don't give an F about helping the kids that are there today, because that's the only reason that we're talking about any of this today anyways. I mean, we escaped. We're the success story, and we're still broken AF. As much as people say, oh, it looks like you guys have it all together. You have no idea the amount of gymnastics that we've had to do to get to this recovery piece. I mean, you know, literally, you can talk about recovery, Liz.
Yeah.
Right?
I have hours and hours and hours of therapy to get to just this spot. And I still continue to go because I still have stuff that I have to work through. So,
Yeah.
do I think it's going to make them stop? The more people that know the truth, the more people that will stay away. The more people that stay away, the more people will be woken up. The more people that are woken up, the less that this thing will have any power.
Yeah, because all of this corruption can only exist in the darkness, you guys. And all of these details, you know, as much as we've heard ad nauseum horrific stuff coming out of these people forever, you know, where there has not been much coverage until now that is on SPTV. It's on all of our channels being made a priority. I mean, you guys see that everything I talk about, everything we list, second generation, third generation. I mean, I'm third generation, Liz. My grandparents were into this too. Never mind that my parents got my grandparents into it. And my grandparents, you know, it's like as a kid, I love my grandmother. I love my grandfather. I thought they were cool. My parents were horrendous and narcissistic, but my grandparents weren't. So at least I had them as like, you know, parental figures in my life. So, but again, it's like, okay, I'm a third generation kid that saw how the dysfunction was just transferred from person to person to person. So here's a question from Apostate Alex. What is the one piece of advice you could give to someone who's out, but still recovering and trying to process what happened to them?
Think of it, do it one day at a time. Don't try to jump ahead to when am I going to feel better, but take it slow. And slow and steady does win the race. Is it going to be hard at times? Yes. It's going to be hell. But there's also going to be times where you feel happiness again. And honestly, take it one day at a time. Be patient and realize that you're worthy of love.
Absolutely. And I would say to listen to the truth, you know, like this is tough love. We're calling out our parents. We're calling out all of these executives. We're calling out all these celebrities. We're calling out all these corrupt people, but we're doing it with love. We might be angry AF, but we wouldn't be angry if we didn't care. If we didn't care about them, we would just be like, you know what? You know, good riddance. I don't want to talk about it. Who cares? You know, but that's not our position. I mean, we cannot stop thinking about it, because if we don't advocate on our behalf the way we wish somebody would have, then who would we be today? The same hypocrites that we are talking about, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's not an option to just leave. It's not an option to just pretend it didn't happen. We need more parents to step up to the plate. And, you know, like Astra's dad that was on his interview with his daughters and was, you know, admitting that he made a lot of mistakes as a parent. It's okay. We get it. Parents can make mistakes. No one's expecting a parent to not make a shred of a mistake. But accountability and transparency is what's being asked in order to turn the page. Radical acceptance of the facts and the truth. Is it going to hurt? Yes. But you know what? If the truth will kill them, let them die. Literally. Because the truth is a gift. It's the best gift anyone could give you. Had Danny had no yes men's around him and people that told him the truth as it was, despite that he could have been insulted, upset, whatever, it doesn't matter. You're like, you are off the rails. It's not okay. You don't need this for yourself. You're acting against your best interest. I mean, that's the whole thing about recovery, right? Like, people that care about you do an intervention because they care about you. If nobody does an intervention, then that means nobody gives an F about you. And if you just die and self-destruct, then it sucks to be you. But that's not our stance here with any of these people. You know, we live with these people. We know who they are, but, you know, we are also aware of what they did. And that is literally indefensible and unforgivable. You know, forgiveness doesn't require reconnection. We can forgive them, take the load that they gave us, give it back to them. Like the Jane Doe so eloquently said, here's your stuff back. Take your rocks with you. Then you deal with those rocks. You deal with the consequences. And Danny, as much as he might think that this is the best thing that could have happened to him, and the fact that he's being made an example of is sending a message to all the other R's. When was Scientology ever going to do anything about monetizing on the self-admission of these type of crimes, you guys? Without a shred of consequences, they were not going to stop. These people only change if their survival and if their image is threatened and compromised. That's the only time they have an incentive to change. And that's why we have to be literally advocates for the truth. And we don't care if it's going to kill you to know the truth, that it was all a fraud, that you were literally abused. I mean, again, it's like, I don't wish to be in my parents' shoes. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, much less my parents. I feel for them. I have compassion for them. They were taken for fools in the beginning. Then they became those fools. Then they became the people that did this stuff. And it's like, you know, so I understand that Danny's family still loves him very much, and it's okay. No one needs to not love him. He needs the love to recover. I mean, it's going to be love from very far away, because now he's where he needs to be to make that recovery process.
And now with the prison that he's going to, he doesn't qualify because of what he was arrested for and when was convicted for. He doesn't get conjugal visits. So he's stuck there behind the glass to be able to say hello.
And he's sending a message to all the other people that have done this. And Scientology is now scrambling for the first time in its life, but all for the wrong reasons. They're scrambling to crisis manage, to protect themselves, to, you know, make sure that another one of these doesn't just get to the press real quick now that all this information is so widely available, right? For so much, they have controlled their image, and none of these stories have ever made a shred of newspaper. So again, like, you know, the crisis management of Scientology is real, but they're not changing for the right reasons. They're changing for self-serving reasons. They're changing with not a shred of accountability, not a shred of self-awareness, not a shred of doing heavy lifting to actually become grounded back into reality. So I thought I could do a little grounding meditation to close off our live chat today. What do you think, Liz?
Absolutely. I'm down. I'm always down for some good therapy. But
Yay.
I will have to say, you know, I put it in the chat. Please subscribe. Hit that like button, everybody. I try to not say it so much, but at least hit it in the comments. But other than that, that's all I've got. And I'm totally down for some meditation.
In this moment, we gather as one to advocate for the young who have suffered undone. Let us close our eyes in this quiet reflection and journey together in deep introspection. Breathe in, breathe out. Let tension release. As we seek understanding, let our hearts find peace. Visualize a world safe and serene, where child survivors' voices are heard and seen. Imagine their strength, their resilience, their grace. As we hold them close in this sacred space, compassion surrounds them like a warm, healing light, guiding them through the darkest of the night. With each breath we take, our resolve grows strong to right the injustices, to right the wrongs. We extend our hands in a gesture of care, letting them know that we will always be there. In unity, we arise with determination ablaze, advocates for child survivors through all of life's maze. We affirm our commitment, our hearts filled with love, to protect their rights and to rise above. As we open our eyes, renewed and aware, we carry this purpose, this burden to bear. Child survivors, we hear your call. Together, we stand for justice for all. In this meditation, our spirits entwine. As advocates for the young, we will shine. Let us work hand in hand for a world that's free, for child survivors to heal and simply be. So, well, I think to, just wrap up this live, you guys, like Liz said, please feel free to subscribe, follow, comment, leave questions for us. And feel empowered because we're all here working as one for the same purpose, for the same cause. And we all represent a section of, knowing firsthand what abuse can look like in many, many different types of ways. So whether you were in Scientology or not, your abuse matters. What was done to you matters. And, as trauma survivors, we don't need pity. We don't need, handouts. We need power. Trauma took our power away from us. So we're here to give us all our power back and to be able to understand that we are advocates, that we did live to tell, and that all these scars that are in our bodies will represent a way for us to hand out that knowledge to others in the present so that awareness can spread like the sunlight that it is and really allow for this, virus to die. The virus doesn't like this type of exposure.
No,
So
it doesn't.
So as we carry on, we will continue to shine the light. We will continue to write comments. I really am actually excited about that. It's like something I've been talking to a couple of my friends, but I'm excited that I just share that with you guys because, we were really trying to rack our brains because we always get asked, like, after all of these horrible things get discussed in these lives, people feel like, well, what do we do? And I think it really did come today that all you have to do is ask questions.
Yep.
And let's ask questions and then demand answers. And if those answers don't make sense, we can continue to ask more and more questions until all of this stuff gets disentangled completely. Any other closing words that you want to say?
Be good, be kind, be loving, and just remember, we all bleed the same color. So just remember that, it is the same. So be kind and remember that you are worth loving.
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys. Hope you have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching. And we will see you all really, really soon. Bye-bye.
I love your face. I'm so proud of you for admitting that. See, did it give you power?
I mean, the same thing that you said, it's like wait, we're not on, right?
No. Yes. Yes.
Hi, guys.